Pie in the Sky Media. This series contains adult language and descriptions of graphic violence throughout. Listener discretion is advised.
Start over. 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome back, Criminal Mischief Nation, to another bonus episode of Criminal Mischief with Carolyn and Branden. I'm the Branden of that duo. With me, as always, the great Carolyn Osorio. Hello, Carolyn.
Hello, Branden. How are you?
I'm doing well. How was your week?
Had a great week. Yeah, I was trying to think of... It's busy. Lots of work. Lots of work. I know you're busy too.
That's good. Yeah, we had some Seattle weather down here. It's been raining for 3 days.
Oh my gosh, it's been like so cold up here.
Yeah, it's been cold. It got down to 39 here in Los Angeles last night, which is cold for us. It's cold for anywhere, but it's really cold for us. And all my attention and all my worry has been on these two stray cats we've been feeding for a couple of weeks that come to our back door. And so I made a nice little warm spot
Stray
for
cats running on a stray cat.
I left the door open
to
my workshop. I left the door open to my workshop and put some warm beds down in there.
You're like a cat predator.
And some food in there, and just want them to be warm and dry, you know. And they started using it. We watched them like all tentative and scared, and like go in there, and then knock them out, and then.
Are you sure they're even stray cats? Are you sure?
They're beautiful. they're like this beautiful like dark gray, almost like a Norwegian blue, but they're not big enough to be a Norwegian blue. And they're either siblings or like parent and offspring. And one is like short hair, and one's like medium hair with a big fluffy tail.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're making me want to sing another song. So
No, please don't. So that's so it's either work or kid driving around to stuff or worrying about the animals in the cold weather. That was my week.
All right. So again, back to you like glossed right over. Are you sure these are even strays?
There's no collars on them.
But that doesn't mean our cats don't have collars on them.
Right, but they seem to be in really good shape. But then
so they're not strays.
But then why don't they go inside at night? Like what's the explanation?
They like to prowl around.
Yeah, but they also have survival instincts. If it's cold and raining, you fucking go home.
No,
Okay.
that's our cats they're like completely frisky, like crazy cats. They love being outside.
Could they get inside without you opening a door for them?
No, we're constantly opening and closing the door for these freaking cats.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, they have like the best world.
Yeah.
You know, they have lots of places to roam. They have their kill zones. You know, there's anyway. I don't think these are strays.
I don't know either.
I
thought I had it figured out when my
What's your ultimate plan though? Are you trying to get more cats?
I don't know. My wife noticed one of their ears is the tip is clipped, which is generally a sign that was a stray that was captured, spayed, and released. So it might be that.
Because of it. What about getting in a fight?
No, you could tell this thing's never been in a fight. This thing's like beautiful and gorgeous and right.
Okay.
It's
all right. These aren't strays. All right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I thought because my back neighbor was replacing the fence.
How to Catch a Predator, but cat version.
My back neighbor was replacing their fence, so for a couple days there was free access between the properties. I thought maybe it was their cats, but we asked him. He goes, "No, he doesn't have cats." So anyway, 2 Christmases ago, I rescued 2 strays that were kittens abandoned by the LA River, and found them a great home with an old friend of mine. And now I just get tons of pictures of these 2 cats that hit the fucking jackpot with this family. I mean, they've got indoor like jungle gyms that they go on, and like heated beds, and like they eat like it's crazy. So they did really well. But anyway, let's talk about this. I couldn't wait to talk about this episode because I enjoyed it for a number of reasons. One, this guy's a lunatic. He's a lunatic. Okay.
Yeah.
2, amazing what damage and destruction and havoc you can wreak when you think God is on your side. Okay.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and three, I totally understand where he was coming from. Okay? Because some ruthless real estate developer was trying to hustle my grandmother like 15 years ago about an easement on her property in New Hampshire. And I wanted to strangle this guy and blow up everything that he owned. So,
Mhm.
like, I get it. I would never cross the line into vigilante justice, but we'll get into it. We'll get into it because it's a really interesting story.
Yeah,
And this is one of those like almost like Luigi Mangione stories, right? Where you can get people on both sides of it. Okay. Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
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 So first, how did you find the story? This was like 30 years ago it started.
Gosh, you're right. Well, 20 years ago.
Well,
20, oh no,
92.
it started. Okay, yeah, it started. Yeah. So I heard about this and watched the documentary when it came out. I don't know how many, however many years ago, and kind of completely forgot about it. And then um, somebody recommended it, kind of roundabout way. I remembered this. It was like vigilante neighbors kind of things going wrong. And you're right. Like it has that appeal to it in that it's like you sort of understand, like not really, but you get that feeling because I've had problems with, you know, permitting and things like that over the years, and it is so frustrating. And you do feel like they have this bureaucratic fiefdom, and you're a pawn in it, and they love gorging on the power. So, like, I think that there's just that push pull of like, you know, of course you would never take it that far, but you kind of understand. Um, what can happen and what I liked about it in hearing, I didn't realize that there were all those tapes that he had made. So I like the kind of, you know, I was kind of a little bit felt icky about giving him a platform and talking about what he, because it reminded me of the Peter Keller guy who built his um you remember the bunker in
Oh yeah.
underground and how he
Oh
kind
yeah.
of, yeah, where you know he just he keeps planning and plotting
The
and
most
building.
patient man in the world. Yes.
Yeah,
For
yeah, yeah.
years
And
and years and years.
years and
Yeah.
years and grueling. And it sounds like this was kind of the same thing where he's like sweat. I mean, I can almost feel the sweat pouring off of his body as he's welding and getting those huge
Yeah.
sheets
He
into
was like the
place.
vigilante version of like Steve Jobs or an Elon Musk, these guys that sleep on the couch in their office so they could
Yeah,
work like constantly, right? Like he
yeah,
moved into his workshop to
yeah.
to
The
do this.
secret. And he thought of everything.
Yeah,
And you know, it's like what I also think it's crazy how you can.
almost everything. He thought of
Yeah.
almost everything.
Okay, well,
He lacked a basic kind of understanding of how, internal combustion engines work and they need airflow to maintain. Like that was his one oversight, or he could have
well,
fucked
he
up that
didn't.
whole town.
He didn't realize that there was. He did. It was like $7 million.
Yeah, 13 buildings. There was a lot more shit that he could have fucked up, if you know what I
Yeah,
mean. Yeah.
and he, yeah, okay, so like just that thing of like, okay, if somebody, you know, says hi to me, I won't kill you. You know, it's kind of like he reinforcing the God was on his side and like nobody was catching him and he kept waiting to be caught and that reinforced that and it was just like nobody was paying attention to you, dude. Like nobody cared.
Nobody cared.
Nobody
They
cared.
figured that they won, that they beat you, that, the small town cronyism, which is fucked up. It is,
It is.
but it
It
exists.
is.
He's an outsider. You use the word legacy families a bunch of times. I mean, and it's true. And it's weird. He just wanted to find a cool place to retire and to have a business and own some land and fell in love with this little town and then just ran smack into you're not wanted. You're not doing what we want to do. We had a plan and you messed it up because you brought more money with you to the auction, you know? And that it's so messed up that they ruined this guy's dreams. They ruined his life. Okay. They make him have to tie into the town water and sewer because they knew it was, financially not feasible. And so he needs an easement from his enemy. He needs his enemy to go, yeah. And the enemy's like, well, you got to do this for me. I mean, the guy was
And can
backed
you
into a corner.
I know, but can you imagine going to those meetings? I don't know if you've ever been to any of those meetings. We had to actually go to a water meeting, and these guys were like sitting around, and there was all guys. They're all sitting
Of
around the
course.
table.
And they
And I
have
was
all the
like
power.
massively pregnant at the time. And I was like, they wanted to know all of our records. Like we had to bring like how much we paid for our house, and then
Right.
they were talking about it like as if we weren't even there. And I'm like, you guys suck.
Yeah.
I mean, it took everything I had to not. Well, I think I actually did go off on them because it was just so ridiculous. The
Yeah.
power that they were wielding, these middle-aged dudes who were like,
All the power
yeah,
in their little fiefdom, what they say goes,
yeah,
and
yeah.
so this guy must have felt like such an outsider and felt
Hmm.
so powerless for what
Hmm.
was going on, and again, no, I don't agree with what he did at all. I'm amazed that no one got killed. It must have been a very slow moving, killdozer. Um,
Did you look it up?
no, I can't wait. I want to see pictures of it. But I mean,
It was literally like nothing you've ever seen before.
it's the work of a madman who thinks that Jesus is whispering in his ear, "Yeah, go tear up the town, dude. Do it. They deserve it. It's you're doing my work. Thank you, Son of God. You're doing great.
I
This is what I
know.
want you to do." And it's, I mean, that's what every crusader felt like. Okay. Every crusader going to the Holy Land, like, this is what Jesus wants. Okay, we're gonna slaughter every single person inside Jerusalem.
It just is the his descent because I'm not going to say madness because he was not insane,
Yes, he
but
was.
just you think he was?
Yeah, absolutely. That's not
Just
the actions of a sane person.
he knew what he was doing. I mean, I think of it.
Of course,
He totally built this.
a death machine. Yes, he built a death machine.
He was methodical. He like planned it. He had the cameras. He had the ports with the rifles. He had enough food to last for a week. He
Yeah.
like, I
He
mean,
welded himself in. He
he
welded
welded
himself
himself
in.
in. He
Yes.
knew that this was his last ride.
Batshit crazy. Yes. If I told you I was planning to do that because my neighbor pissed me off, you'd say Branden has lost his mind and he needs help and I'm going to call a psychiatrist and the police and his wife, right?
The difference is that you would talk about it and you would be like, talk me off the ledge, dude. Okay, let's go play pickleball, right?
Not if I
I mean,
thought
this
God
guy
was on my
kept
side.
kept it in total secrecy,
Yeah.
held it together, did the inspection with the insurance and was able to be like, oh yeah, I mean, that's not crazy.
Yeah.
He kept his shit together, you know?
Well, years and years ago, my grandfather died in 2001. And so my grandmother was alone in this beautiful house that they built up in the woods of southern New Hampshire, like this gorgeous property, just hardwood forests forever, and their
Mhm.
house up on high ground on this hill. Um, and and they were surrounded by, it's not wetlands, but like a protected kind of ecosystem with a spring coming out and whatever, like just beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful. And she would, she was contracted with a logging company. Like every 5 years, they would come in and log some of the bigger trees, and help the forest and everything. And it went to build home, whatever. It was just wonderful situation going on. And then on a similar level piece of ground, about 100 yards to the east, um, a development company bought a big tract of land. Okay. Uh, that they wanted to put a subdivision on, like 60 houses or something like that. Okay. Um, Nothing anybody could do. That's progress. Okay, great. It's a suburb of, a far suburb, but a suburb of Boston, right? So it was starting to get settled, and then but they needed an easement because of the environmental protections that were already in place, right? So they needed to come down through my grandmother's property, and but again, there was a lot of small town cronyism going on because every
Well, what
kind
did
of
they need the easement for? To drive or to put
for
plumbing?
drainage, right?
Drainage. Okay.
For
Okay.
drainage. And but everything that every proposal that they would give, my grandmother also had kind of reviewed by a different like landscape company, like a accredited whatever. And they go, this doesn't solve the problem. It's not going to protect the environment. This is going to flood everything, and this is going to become a swamp in 3 years.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
they would get another one, and they don't care. They're just trying to rubber stamp this through because they think they're going to outlast you. Then they started offering her money. Then they started doing all this, and finally, she just said no, never going to happen. Went to an attorney, said you'll never get this easement. Stop. I don't care if you don't build the subdivision. And they were never able to build the subdivision. Then,
I got the power.
lucky for them though, because then the financial crisis hit in '07, and they would have lost their ass. So everybody kind of eventually
So God was on their side.
God was on their side. But it was just so annoying every time a new proposal would come to my sweet little grandmother, right? And she was like, I know they're lying to me. I know they're lying to me. And she would pay out of pocket to this other company that would review it, and they would say, same thing, Dorothy. It's not gonna it's you'll be living, there'll be a swamp in your backyard.
I
Yeah.
know, but why did she have to do that? Because she didn't have, why did she pay money to do that?
She's a trusting person, and she wanted to see if she had heard, she's honest, right? If she had heard from this other company that, yeah, this actually will work and your property will be protected and they could have their homes and you won't stand in the way of progress and everything will be cool, she would have said okay. But nothing they ever submitted was up to snuff. Yeah. Yeah. They
And
were
just
so
think of how many
mad.
people are railroaded who don't see it coming. And then it's like, and that's probably what the deal is with this guy is that he saw it coming every single
Oh
time. It's
God.
almost like, you know there are times when you're going to get screwed and you just have to just be like, you know what? I just got screwed. And let it go.
All
And
right,
that
let's
was
say he has, and I totally agree with you. Let's say he has a family. Let's say he has a wife and a couple of kids that aren't 18, they're still living at home. What do you think he does in this situation?
I don't know because the fact that he didn't have a wife and kids and
Allowed him to make the bad decision. I think if he had a wife and kids, he pulls up stakes, he sells, he licks his wounds and lives to fight another day and said, "Damn, this town won and kicked my ass."
no, but this is like a 10-year period. He could have he had a girlfriend who was like he was really into, and then they broke up, and that kind of added to it as well. But I don't know. It seems like he was just a particular type of personality to begin with.
Yeah.
He during his kind of ravings, he was talking about how, people don't work hard and, just that whole thing. And like, I work pull
Yeah,
myself
sure.
by my boot, all that stuff. So I feel like there was just this complex against him that was just growing and growing and growing. I mean, we've all been through that where we've been taken advantage of at some point,
Yeah.
or, we're working harder than everybody else. And you make that into a story that's a positive thing. He chose to absolutely focus on it, obsess about it. He could have just, if he really wanted to screw it to him, he could have just spent the 60 grand to get
That's what I was going to say. Spend the 60K
yeah.
and live well, and they would have hated him for it.
And they would see that's how my mind works.
Yeah.
My mind would have been like, how can I show them through my outwit them, basically? How
Yeah.
can I outwit this system? And if I can't, then I need to just figure out how to walk away from it. But if I can, let's do that because that'd feel real good, you know?
The one thing he had no control over though was the cement plant going up. That was upwind from him, right? There was
Yeah,
nothing that he could do about that.
yeah.
There was no
No.
way to outwit them on that. They gave the permit, they built the place, they did it at him, they did it on purpose, you know?
Yeah. I mean, because he probably could have gotten a really good attorney, but that would have cost a lot of money. And
Yep.
there's no, because, you know, we just don't know how deep the cronyism went. Because if the judges are, I mean, and I don't, this is all total speculation. I have no idea about this town. I don't, they could have had the best judges in the world, but like when they squashed his lawsuit, that was the defeat of the defeat. You
So
know?
what's the lesson here? Is no one to walk away, no one you're beat? Like that goes counter to, the jingoistic American principles, right? It's like fight on and right? I mean, you
I
gotta
mean, I think that also that principle of American pull yourself up by your bootstraps, that part of that is knowing that you're going to work harder than everybody else and you're going to be smarter that, you just keep plugging away and you're not going to win every fight, but you don't give up. And in this way, he gave up. He like got on their level, wanted to get even, wanted to get revenge. And it's like, he's going to teach them a lesson.
But he
He
didn't.
kept saying that he's going to teach them a lesson. I mean, what
They
I
can rebuild, and he ate a bullet. What's the lesson?
well, he said that shows how small he is.
Yeah,
That he,
right. He lost.
you know, but apparently he's like a lot of preppers were like really into his story and
Right. You had
his,
me at preppers. Okay. I don't really need, that on my side, right? Hey, I got the prepper vote, man, so, we're cool.
I'm just telling you what I read. That's all I
No,
can
I
do.
believe it. I totally believe it.
That's why they totally like burned that thing to the ground to the
They
ground
cut it into pieces and then destroyed the
and
pieces
then
of the
destroyed the
machine.
pieces because they didn't want people, carrying it around, you
Trophy.
know.
They didn't want to martyr the guy, like all
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
And they even like on the 20th anniversary, like they shut down the town because they were worried that somebody could come and like revisit what he
But
did.
their lesson is don't ignore the guy that we're screwing over when he locks himself in his factory for months. Maybe check in on him every now and then.
I wonder
See
if
what he's
any of them
doing.
had the self-reflection to say, hey, we kind of screwed this guy over.
Oh, I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did. And then, a couple years later, when they rebuild and the cement factory is turning a good profit, they sit around and they laugh about it. Haha, we got rid of him. We didn't even have to pull the trigger. He did that for us.
Oh, that's so terrible.
Yeah.
It's so terrible because it's the ultimate gaslighting by the entire town.
Yep.
And that drives people mad. I mean, I totally like we've said, we're not condoning it in any possible way, but just the loss after loss after loss after loss, and then you feel like, okay, the building didn't sell and I got my dozer. That's a sign from God that I need to do this, you know?
And he
And
did
and
it right.
and how he must have felt like he is the chosen one. This is my cross to
He
bear,
kept saying
you
that.
know?
He kept saying that.
I know, and it's almost like a drug, that was fueling, you
And he
know?
gave himself, he set it up so well for God to be on his side. He put a for sale sign on the dozer. Well, it didn't sell. I get that's a sign that I've got to turn it into a war machine. Okay.
That's
Thanks,
that's what I'm
Jesus.
saying.
Thanks, Jesus. Show me where in the Bible it says Jesus says take retribution by creating a machine of war and leveling 13 buildings in your small town because you're mad.
I'm surprised he didn't. Well, the tapes were his manifesto. That was it.
Oh,
He
he's
was describing.
totally a
Oh,
manifesto
oh,
guy.
oh, you know what I've learned from this? This is the lesson. This
Okay.
is the lesson. You know, when we were going through our problems with our permitting process and just like we had to get this engineer and we had to do all this stuff, I learned that people don't really give a shit about what you're going through when you're going through this, right? You got to read the room and you got to
Yep.
know that it's like nobody really cares. You got to go through this and you either get to the other side of it or you walk away.
Yep.
And it's like, that's it, you
Yep.
know? And he just he
Tough
couldn't
lesson.
do it.
It's a tough lesson. It's a tough lesson because he had a lot of success in other areas of his life. He
Hmm.
wasn't used to this. No one would be comfortable with this. No one would be comfortable with, you know, when you're right and you know that you're right
Hmm.
and you're legitimately a victim of an unfair system.
Yeah.
Okay. And you play by the rules and you file a lawsuit and you're not violent and and you do everything right and you still get screwed. The little guy still, and he's not a little guy. He was a wealthy man. He could kind of do what he wanted. He could have walked away and been fine. I'm sure there was a lot of ego involved and just the disbelief that in America, a man could be treated like that by some version of government in the United States. Because that's what it
Hmm.
was. It was the local government that
Hmm.
just decided you're not one of us.
Hmm.
And so we're going to do this to you.
I know, but people have been dealing with this forever. Minorities, like just, people new to the country. I mean, just
Absolutely.
it's entitlement.
The
It's
little
like,
guy takes it in the shorts. Yeah.
absolutely. And it's like, he couldn't just let it go. He could have just sold that property. And apparently they made offers and then he just he
Up
didn't
to
take it.
400 grand.
Well, he took that one, but the other ones before this whole plan,
Yep.
I just think they were probably just so smug. That's one thing that's a real hard pill to swallow is when people are smug, you know? That's hard,
Yep.
with their gavels on their little podiums, and it's a small town, and they
Their
just think
little,
that they,
their knowing smile that they're getting over on you and there's nothing
yeah.
you could
And
do.
then gaslighting you like they're not. That's
Yep.
that's the thing. That's that sweet spot right there where it's like
The hardest
they,
thing.
yeah.
Sometimes you just got to take it.
Sometimes you do, and you learn from it. I mean, gosh, even when you think about the law, sometimes like a lesson that I've learned is like, I think that if people hear the story, they will see that I'm right or whatever. But then it's like, no, that's not how the law works. The law
Yeah.
works, you could be totally right, but if the law does not support, it doesn't support like the right thing always. You know what I mean? I'm kind of talking around it because I don't want to get into specifics, but
No,
like,
I understand. I
yeah,
understand. It's the people who pass the laws. The
but I'm
people
just
who pass
saying,
the
like,
laws that are skewed to favor certain groups, you
yeah,
know?
but just there's all these intricate laws that you don't know
Mhm.
that you're not that just seem like common sense,
Yeah.
but they're not. You know what I mean?
Well, what you don't do is chill with Jesus while you're building your war machine and feel like he's patting you on the back and says, "You're doing my work, my son." That's ridiculous. And that's, in my opinion, that's the act of a lunatic. So,
Well, and thankfully nobody was
yeah,
killed.
that's
It's
crazy.
amazing.
You hear these
It's
motherfuckers in the helicopter watching it going, what? What is
oh my
going
God.
on?
And it's like they had people on the list where they were like, okay, you didn't like this reporter, that he's coming, and
He
he did come, and he barely got
tore
out of the
that place
building.
up. And he was about to mess up Gambles when he overheated, right? Man, that would have just
He
been
was
a
he was like on the
bonanza.
town council. He was on the town council. That was his livelihood right there.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
I just wonder what he was thinking if he thought this is worth it.
Yeah.
As he was doing it, as he was clawing in,
Was
and
he like laughing, going, yeah, take it all, you fuckers. Woo! All
and
drunk,
with,
walking into like a little but a bunker.
with his monitors, and he was the people that were against him were actually trying to stop it, and they just couldn't. It was
Good.
impenetrable. It was
Oh my
completely, it was a joke. It was unstoppable. And you have to think he was probably like, oh yeah, oh yeah.
man. Yeah, I bet he was proud of himself, and thanking Jesus the whole time. Um,
Mm.
well, listen, it was a lot of it was a fun episode. Listen, there are hard lessons in this. There's no happy ending to this one, right? Like,
No.
I'm not gonna applaud the guy and say, "Fuck yeah, fight the power and get," no, because that's ridiculous. It doesn't get you anywhere.
Mhm.
In my opinion, that's not. I'm more of a, Gandhi, Martin Luther King guy, peaceful, nonviolent kind of resistance. Like slow and steady, kind of gets it, and you take your licks, but eventually, the moral arc of the universe bends, towards justice. But, you know, I can understand and appreciate how someone would snap that way, but I just wish that this guy maybe had people in his life that he could have talked to about it and talked him down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think you're right on that.
Yeah.
I think if you would have had, but usually I think a lot of times people, they don't share it. So people don't know what's going on in their heads,
Yeah.
and I think he really obviously kept this way under the vest
Yep.
until it was too late. So,
Well, great episode. Nation, if you enjoyed it, consider sharing it with a friend. Head over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review the show. It helps more than you could imagine. And consider supporting the great companies that support us, because without them, we couldn't do it. So that'll do it for this week. Carolyn, you want to add anything?
nope. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
make sure you check us out on YouTube. Be patient with me. I'm learning the most effective way to make these shorts. So hope you enjoy it. Thanks, everybody. See you next week. Stay safe out there.
Bye.
From Cloud 10, Criminal Mischief is a pie-in-the-sky production recorded in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. We're produced by Brandon Morgan and myself. Music by Soundstripe. I'm Carolyn Osorio, your writer and host.